Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a profound sense of wonder? In that quiet moment, questions bubble up. What are we? Why are we here? These questions have echoed through human history, from ancient firesides to modern labs. This curiosity is the heart of philosophy, a grand adventure in seeking wisdom. Philosophy is our compass for living, guiding us through the universe of questions. Imagine you have two different sets of instructions for building a bridge. One set is written in beautiful, elegant language, following all the classical rules of architectural theory. It is a masterpiece of abstract design. The other set is a collection of rough sketches and notes, focusing only on what materials to use and how to put them together, so the bridge doesn't fall down. Pragmatism would argue that the better set of instructions is the one that results in a safe, functional bridge that people can actually use. It turns away from the search for abstract, perfect theories and instead directs our attention to the concrete, practical effects of our ideas in the real world. Unlike many older philosophical traditions that get lost in debates about the ultimate nature of reality or the absolute definition of truth, pragmatism asks a simpler, more direct question. What difference does this idea make in practice? It suggests that we should treat our beliefs as tools. A good tool is one that helps us accomplish a task, to solve a problem, to navigate our environment more effectively. If a belief helps us to live better, more productive, and more fulfilling lives, then it has value. If it leads to confusion, conflict, or inaction, then we should be willing to revise it or discard it for a better one. At the core of the pragmatic method is a focus on consequences. Pragmatists ask, if I accept this idea, what practical difference does it make? William James called this the cash value of an idea, not money, but real-world payoff. What tangible effects does this belief produce? The truth of an idea depends on its purpose and practical consequences. One of the most radical and often misunderstood ideas in pragmatism is its theory of truth. For centuries, the dominant view was that truth is a static property. An idea was true if it corresponded to reality, like a perfect mirror reflecting the world as it is. This is known as the correspondence theory of truth. The pragmatists proposed something different. They suggested that we think of truth not as a static property, but as a dynamic process. For the pragmatist, a belief becomes true. It is made true by events. Its truth is, in fact, an event, a process. The process, namely, of its verifying itself. So what does it mean for a belief to work or to be verified? It means that it helps us to navigate the flow of our experience successfully. A true belief is a useful guide to action. Imagine you are lost in a forest. The belief that a certain path leads out of the forest is not true or false in some abstract sense. You test its truth by acting on it. If you follow the path and arrive safely at your destination, your belief has worked. It has been verified by your experience. In that context, the belief was true because it led to a successful outcome. It helped you solve the problem of being lost. For the pragmatists, all knowledge, all meaning, and all value ultimately begin and end with experience. But this isn't just the passive reception of sensory data, the colors, sounds, and textures of the world. For pragmatists like John Dewey, experience is actually an active process. It's this dynamic, ongoing interaction between a living organism and its environment. We are not separate observers looking at the world from a distance. Instead, we are participants, constantly acting upon the world and being acted upon by it. Experience is really the entire process of living, of trying, failing, learning, and adapting. It's the very fabric of our existence. Think about how a child learns about the world. They don't start with abstract theories about physics. They learn that fire is hot by feeling its warmth and perhaps, unfortunately, by getting too close. They learn about gravity not by reading Newton's laws, but by falling down and getting back up again. This direct, embodied, and often messy process of interaction is the foundation of all understanding. Our more complex and abstract ideas, from mathematics to morality, are ultimately tools that we have developed to help us organize, interpret, and navigate this stream of raw experience more effectively. They are, in the end, abstractions built upon the solid ground of lived reality. The story of pragmatism begins with a brilliant, complex, and often difficult man named Charles Sanders Peirce. Born in 1839, Pierce was a true polymath, a logician, mathematician, scientist, and philosopher who worked for most of his career for the United States Coast and Geodetic Survey. He never held a permanent university position, and honestly, much of his groundbreaking work was published only after his death. Yet, it was Pierce who first laid the architectural groundwork for this new philosophical movement. He was the originator, the one who first articulated the core principle that would come to define pragmatism. Pierce was deeply interested in the nature of belief and doubt. He saw inquiry not as a leisurely pursuit, but as a struggle to move from the irritating state of doubt to the calm state of belief. A belief, for Pierce, is a habit of action. It is a readiness to act in a certain way, in a certain situation. To truly understand the meaning of a belief, he argued, we must look at the habits of action it produces. This led him to formulate what he called the pragmatic maxim, the foundational statement of the entire philosophy. He wrote, "Consider what effects, that might conceivably have practical bearings, we conceive the object of our conception to have. Then, our conception of these effects is the whole of our conception of the object." If Charles Sanders Peirce was the quiet architect of pragmatism, then William James was its charismatic and eloquent spokesperson. Born in 1842 into a wealthy and intellectual family, James was a physician, a pioneering psychologist, and one of the most influential thinkers of his time. With his engaging writing style and his ability to connect complex philosophical ideas to the concrete struggles of human life, he took Peirce's demanding logical maxim and transformed it into a vibrant and accessible philosophy that captured the imagination of the public. James made pragmatism a household name. James extended Peirce's theory of meaning into a full-blown theory of truth. This is where he introduced the famous and sometimes controversial idea that the true is the name of whatever proves itself to be good in the way of belief. For James, truth wasn't a static relationship between an idea and a distant reality. Truth happens to an idea. It becomes true when it helps us to navigate our lives successfully. He was particularly interested in the role of belief in areas where scientific evidence was insufficient, such as in questions of morality, meaning, and religious faith. He argued that in these cases, we have a will to believe. The third great figure in the pragmatic triumvirate is John Dewey. Living a long and incredibly productive life from 1859 to 1952, Dewey took the ideas of Peirce and James and applied them to nearly every aspect of human society, most notably to education, politics, and art. If Peirce was the logician and James the psychologist, Dewey was the social reformer. He believed that philosophy's ultimate purpose was not just to understand the world, but to improve it. He saw democracy not just as a form of government, but as a way of life, a mode of associated living based on communication and shared experience. Dewey's most famous contribution was his revolutionary philosophy of education. He was deeply critical of the traditional model of schooling, which he saw as a passive process of pouring information into the empty heads of students. For Dewey, this was fundamentally wrong. He argued that education must be active and experiential. The classroom should be a miniature community, a laboratory where children learn by doing. Students should engage in hands-on projects and collaborative problem-solving, learning skills and knowledge in the context of activities that are meaningful to them. This learning by doing approach is the essence of pragmatic education. In a world overflowing with information and disinformation, where we are confronted by complex global challenges like climate change, political polarization, and rapid technological disruption, the principles of pragmatism feel more relevant than ever. This is not a philosophy for a bygone era. It is a vital tool for navigating the complexities of the 21st century. Its emphasis on practical consequences, its experimental spirit, and its grounding in lived experience offer a powerful antidote to the rigid ideologies and abstract dogmas that so often divide us and prevent effective action. Pragmatism calls us back to what matters: solving real problems for real people. Consider the way we approach problem-solving in fields like technology, business, and design. The methods of agile development and design thinking are deeply pragmatic. Instead of trying to create a perfect product in isolation, teams build a minimum viable product, test it with real users, gather feedback from that experience, and then iterate and improve. This cycle of building, testing, and learning is a perfect embodiment of the pragmatic method. It accepts that we don't know the final answer at the start, and that the best path forward is discovered through a process of intelligent trial and error, a direct application of Dewey's instrumentalism.